Greetings, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of feedback on exam number 1. I thought you guys did a great job. Some of you did a really great job. It's pretty typical for the first group or the first test to be a little bit more difficult than the others, and your average was almost 70%, so that's pretty good considering we had some really high scores in with that. Let's talk about some of the things that you guys really nailed. You really had a good feel for the regions, and I'm really glad about that because that was one assignment that I had changed. I normally have a writing assignment on that through the wiki, and we didn't do that this semester. I was really nervous. You guys did a great job. You were pretty comfortable with the ins and outs of the questions about like Maryland and Jamestown and things like that. A little bit of difficulty though with identifying the backcountry, and we didn't study the backcountry as a region, which is actually how I studied it in my master's courses. But when you think about backcountry, that would be the places outside of the reach of the city, places like where Nathaniel Bacon had his rebellion. And think about it, that would have been a close-knit group of people because they didn't have lots of government, they didn't have a lot of good relations with the Native Americans. And I think that I was really careful on the options to, on the distractors to talk about, how great things were with Native Americans, which wasn't true, or how much colonial, I wanted to, maybe I said something about like governmental power. They didn't have that. They were pretty much out there on their own. So you had to really be thinking on that one. So that did make that a difficult item. Let's see. You guys did a great job with things like the frame of government, Columbian Exchange, Native American generalities, slavery generalities, things like that. Colonial government, I was really excited, and that is a nod to, I think we had a couple students who kind of tackled that one, or related topics on that. So you guys did a great job in preparing others, or maybe you just did a great job studying, but you felt pretty comfortable with the way the governments ran. So nice job. Some things that were difficult. One of the ones that was most difficult was probably the English settlement. And I get it because we studied the regions. This is, where the Puritans were. This is where the Quakers were. This is where William Penn kind of established a place for kind of anybody. Here's where, the Virginians were. Here's where the slaves were. But all of that was kind of, it's not that England and the crown planned it that way. It was because the Puritans got a charter for here, so here they ended up. It's not like there was a plan for the social classes or anything. So you had to really pay attention. We had a lot of students snagged by the idea that those regions were intentionally placed that way, and they really weren't. It was just kind of where they ended up getting the charters and the permission. Least religious, we did kind of have trouble, and pretty much Virginia would be the least religious. And yes, they went to church every week, but they really didn't adhere to their religion. I mean, if you ever did look up William Byrd II, he said his prayers every time he had an affair. So I mean, I think that when you think about truly sticking to the morals of a religion, Virginia wasn't it. So let's see, colonial interaction. And I know where this came from because we had some great posts. We talked about the wagon road, and I think my comment was, hey guys, look, we've got the beginnings of these people talking to each other, because before we had that, they didn't really move around a lot. They didn't really notice each other. They really kind of looked down on each other. So I don't think I would feel comfortable enough in saying that even with that a Great Wagon Road, that this was going to become a powerful governmental, political, and economic influence. So it's the beginnings. It's going to set the stage for later, discussions and things like that. But I don't think drinking at a bar, with the dirty guy next to you is really going to be considered a powerful political or economic influence. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Salem witch trials. Most of us kind of did okay on that one. I had one student say that it was caused by reduced piety in the young children. I mean, don't we all say that? That today's kids are way wilder than we used to be, which is not true. My mom grew up in the 70s, way wild. But a lot of us got hooked on one called Occult History. So I don't think they had. Remember that Salem was a Puritan town. I mean, so pretty much they were always just Puritans or outsiders. I definitely wouldn't say that it was a history of the occult. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, we look at Puritans as, pretty fanatic, but they were just a strict religion. I wouldn't call it the occult. So anyway, Albany Plan. I wanted to talk about one more thing. With the Albany Plan, I think there was some confusion on it, which is totally fine. I don't mind confusion. Feel free to email me anytime that you're a little unsure. But really with the Albany Plan, the choices, I mean, they weren't as clear as, they didn't match up exactly as to what I said. But think about it, they were having difficulty with basically getting together and, some colonies giving up power. And when you looked at the options, the one that would have been an act of a colony giving up power would have been the fiscal jealousies. They didn't want to, one person didn't want to have all the money, all of the, responsibilities, and the others being left out. So just something to keep in mind. Let me know whatever specific questions you have. If you'll notice on your final grade, I looked over some of my questions, some of them, especially in light of the way that discussion went, I thought, let's go ahead and give them credit for that one. So your final grade is different than what your first grade would have said. So look over, email me if you have any questions, and hopefully this kind of just gives you a feel for what to expect. Honestly, when I look at my item analysis, the calculations say that that about 3/4 of my questions are too easy. So I don't personally believe that, but I do change things from semester to semester. So, but overall, you kind of know what to expect on exam 2. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.